Episode 18 of the podcast, we are going to talk about dominant dogs. What does that mean? Does it mean anything to us on the grooming table and at the vet's office? And then in the second part, we are going to talk about nervous dogs. And what exactly does that mean? This is the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Christy Newmeyer Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, and a certified professional dog trainer. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. Today, I want to talk about dominance and dominance theory because I think that I hear it an awful lot in the grooming world. I mean, certainly you hear it in the training world too and amongst dog owners. So let's clear some of this up. Are there dominant dogs? Do we need to be dominant over them? Is dominance a problem in grooming and vet settings? And I want you to think about the fact that dominance, in its real definition, so in human terms, right, the Google Dictionary puts it as power and influence over others. Example, worldwide dominance of Hollywood, supremacy, superiority, domination, mastery, power, rule, command, control, all these other really emotionally charged words, right? But what dominance really is amongst dogs is more about their social interactions. And so, for instance, if I open the sliding back door, which one of my dogs is more likely to run through in that moment is the one that is taking a dominant position, right? That would be different if someone came to the side door because the other dog is more likely to be the first one there and they defer to each other. It's not about control. It's just sort of a who does things first. It really doesn't make a difference with grooming and vet behaviors. So let's talk about that more because seeing a dog as dominant doesn't lead you to a solution set. In this case, even though there isn't a definite definition to dominance and there is dominance in dogs, it's not a behavior problem. And I think that that's part of what's been kind of switched around. Like pop culture has turned it into this behavior problem, which it really isn't. So seeing a dog as a dominant dog doesn't lead you to the solution. It's more of a story. And we've talked about observations versus stories. So while there's dominance, in most cases, what we're really working with is a training issue. And we need to take a closer look at what we observe. So does the term really matter? Why am I even talking about the term? It does matter because we as people, when we hear dominant, it leads us down the wrong path. It leads us down the logical path of lack of respect. And we start thinking that the solution would be to be more dominant or dominate the dog, right? We start thinking that the dog needs to respect us, and it doesn't really address the behavioral problem. So if we think about lack of respect as its problem, then we're not really addressing the fact that maybe this dog doesn't feel comfortable with people touching their feet, hasn't been worked on with people touching their feet, or doesn't understand that some things that's going to touch its skin vibrate, and that's weird. Clippers make a vibrating feeling that I think a lot of trainers don't necessarily recognize, that clippers kind of vibrate. It's kind of a weird feeling on its skin. So if we're taking a look at it and saying this dog is very dominant, we're not addressing the real training issue. It's a red herring. It's leading us down the wrong path, right? It's like, I'm going to use a human example here. When somebody says, my kid isn't doing their homework, right? That's a big, big thing, right? My kid isn't doing their homework. But if somebody came to you and said that, would we just jump to lack of respect or rebellious? Would we say that that kid just doesn't respect you enough? Or would we ask questions? Right? So in my experience, we ask questions, like, hey, my kid's not doing homework. Oh, well, how old is your kid? Right? What's the subject of the homework? Is the kid having any problems with that subject? What kind of time of day is the homework getting done? Is it like right after school and their friends are playing outside? How much homework are they getting? Is it a matter of not wanting to carry heavy books on a long walk home? Right? I want you to think about all of those other things that we would ask about because there's no one answer to my kid isn't doing their homework. and I use it as an example because I fell prey to this when I was in 7th and 8th grade. That was the point where science class was a lot of memorization. And I am not very good at memorization. And so I ended up trying to memorize things, but I was actually talking to my teacher quite a bit and trying to get through this because I was always an A student and now I'm like getting C's. And my parents took it as kids at this age just get rebellious. So I was pretty much grounded for seventh and eighth grade before they snapped out of it and realized, oh, oh, you were just having trouble with that class? But they had it in their head that kids get rebellious. So that's what the problem with the dominance thing is, too, right? Like this dog is just being rebellious. This dog is just being a pain in the butt. This dog doesn't respect me. This dog doesn't respect people. Respect, 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 right? But we really need to look at the behavior that we are seeing. Because again, we talked about subjective and objective data and observations, and dominance is usually the story that we create around things that we saw. I have heard people call all sorts of things dominance, when truly it was something entirely different. So while there is dominance in dogs, it has no real place in us trying to solve a behavior problem. Because even if it's a matter of finding out that the owners always let go as soon as this dog wants them to let go, that's a training issue, right? That's a dog who you might see as spoiled, or a dog that you might see as, they give in every time and he gets anything he ever wants. But it's a training issue. It's not the dog's fault. It's not because that dog is defective, right? It's a perfectly normal dog. But when we start looking at the behavior that we see, what happens, right? So is this dog just very, very vocal? If you go to reach for him and he starts barking at you and he's looking at you dead in the eye and barking at you, is he lunging forward? Is he lunging backward? Is he trying to avoid you, or is he trying to push you away with all of his body language? And do you think that he would lunge for you and actually connect, right? Those are all very different things. And I think there's a whole lot of emotion wrapped up with the term dominance. A truly natural born leader of a dog is kind of what I consider a dominant dog. I've had the pleasure of living with one. She was wonderful. She was friendly and outgoing. She also would take charge if another dog did something dangerous or reckless. She was always thinking ahead, all right? She was not a wild card. She wasn't panicky, right? I think a lot of the things that we hear as dominance are excuses for dogs that are being aggressive or are acting aggressively, because they aren't really being aggressive, they're acting aggressively towards something that they are unsure of, nervous about, worried about, because you do not become aggressive with things that you're comfortable with. Does that make sense? So hopefully, when we all start looking differently at, do we even care if it's a dominant dog? No, it doesn't have any bearing at all. What we have is an animal who is learning how to behave in particular situations, right? Behavior is an individual's response to the things going on around them. So we have a number of ways that we can help a dog be good and teach a dog to be good. But as soon as we start thinking it's a lack of respect, we stop thinking about helping the dog be good. So it sort of just messes with our own heads. It sends us down the wrong track. I will give you another example. A car that doesn't start, and they're generally the first thing anybody says is it's the battery. And I had a problem with a car that had electrical problems. I'm like, except this battery is brand new and this battery has a charge. But, nope, it's the battery. Like, oh, good God, is there somebody here who knows what they're doing? Because I know it's not the battery, nope, because the headlights don't even dim when I'm trying to turn it over, and it's been trying to turn over for half an hour. That's not a dead battery, right? So I think we have a number of different ways to look at a problem, but if we just are laser focused, right? That dog is dominant, that kid is disrespectful, that battery's dead, right? That we're not really looking at the more options that we have, right? There's so much more going on at any particular time. So take a step back and think about, okay, some of the dogs that you think are dominant, and take a step back and say, all right, I'm going to humor Chrissy. What do I really see? What does that dog do? Is that dog just being kind of forcefully aggressive to make people back off? Often that is viewed as dominant, right? Not usually the dogs that are more fearful looking. They're more proactive, if you will, right? Are we looking at dogs and thinking that that dog doesn't respect us? Or can we step back and say, all right, what do I need to do to help this dog learn what we need him to learn? How can I get him to be comfortable with the things that we have to do? How can I get that owner to help us? How can I get that owner to see the value in teaching their dog to be comfortable with things? Because there is value to that. We talk about that in a couple other episodes, that we need them to see the value to this is that I can do a nice job on your dog. You will be able to handle your dog in an emergency or give your dog medications. Your vet will be able to do better exams on your dog, right? That everybody is going to be safer. Your dog will be more confident. We need to help all of these things happen. And if we're just saying, oh man, that was one really dominant dog, right? It just throws us down the wrong track. It's just totally messes with our heads. It's a story and it doesn't give us data. If you're enjoying my podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Now that we've talked some about dominance, let's also talk about those nervous dogs, because those are the opposite end of the spectrum for the dogs that are going to give us the largest amount of problems or have the largest amount of problems with grooming and with vet visits. So with our nervous dogs, and some dogs just have a nervous character, right? They just tend to be a little bit scared of everything. I had the good fortune of living with one, and she was lovely. She just needed to be guided through any sort of scary thing. And of course, scary is all relative. It depends on the individual, what an individual thinks is scary. But she needed to be guided through her life and needed extra work on things that other dogs would have taken in stride. So when we talk about nervous dogs, we also need to, I know you guys are getting sick of hearing me say it, we need to look at the behavior. We need to look at what they are doing, what they are reacting to, and take a larger look around too. Take a look at what kind of noises are going on, what kind of situations are happening. Is it just about what we're doing to that dog's foot, or are they overwhelmed before they even walk in the door? Right? Is this dog nervous at home? Is this dog living in a state of everything really scares me? Are the owners working on it? That's a big one. Are they trying to shelter this dog from scary things? Have they given up and just think that this dog is just scared? Every once in a while I hear a story about, someone's like, oh, you'd never be able to help with my dog. My dog's just afraid of everything. And oh, it breaks my heart. Like, please don't let your dogs live in fear. We can't let our owners think that that's okay, because the truth is that dogs get boo-boos, and we need to check the boo-boos, right? The world has loud noises. We need to be able to teach them to be around loud noises. We can't simply shelter them from everything that would be uncomfortable. The world has some discomforts. So I want you to be thinking about that calm, comfortable, cooperative dog is inside that fearful dog too. Just that we need to work on some very specific parts of what they're afraid of. All right. And that's very individual. That's why we have to go back and look at behavior. We need to look at what they're doing, but we can't shelter them from it. I find a lot of modern dog training is, oh, I want the dogs to be comfortable. They want to be comfortable. I would never do anything that made them uncomfortable. And God, that's a beautiful, beautiful thought. I mean, I don't want to make my dogs uncomfortable. I don't want to make anybody's dogs uncomfortable. However, we need to teach them to be comfortable with things that are challenging for them, right? Dogs get boo-boos. The world has loud noises, right? We need to help them understand that this is something they can trust us with. It's not just about being safe all the time, because if I need to look in an ear that's sore, I need that dog to trust, and maybe not trust everybody in the world. I mean, I don't expect them to let the neighborhood kids look in their infected ear, but to trust that, okay, I'm going to help you through this. So we can't just say, oh, this dog is just so nervous. Or he was rescued. Like that's a big common one. Oh, he's a rescue and he's afraid of things because he's a rescue. I just don't see that as truth. I see that as part of a story, but we look at the behavior we have and help that dog acclimate to the things they need to know about. And that might be a very slow process. It could just be that they need a lot of help with learning about particular things and learning about them separately. So let me give you an example. If a dog is really worried about the sound of a dryer, there are ways that we can put that dryer sound at a low volume. A lot of the time when I'm doing training lessons in somebody's home, I go through and I record some stuff ahead of time, and then I have it on my phone and I play it at a super low volume where I can easily pause it if it becomes too much. Right? I have control of that sound versus actually turning on the shop vac and saying, see, everything's okay. Here comes some cookies. You know, like we can have a shop vac sound that's really low that we can control. And so some of those nervous dogs need extra work, almost like the dogs who are mislabeled as dominant, but those dogs who are super aggressive, the fear shows up differently. They still need a lot of work on the things that are happening around them. And, like I said, loud sounds might be something that owners are working on at home. Being touched all over, things that owners are working on at home. We can minimize some of the scariness for a dog that we know is still working through it. And sometimes that's a matter of booking that dog on a day that's fairly slow in the afternoon after some of the other animals have left. Don't take them in on a Saturday, no matter what the owners are telling you. Nope. Saturday's your busiest day of the week. That's not a good time for the dog who is afraid of everything. We have to also be thinking about the safety of the animal. We need to make sure that they're not going to hurt themselves. And owners don't think about that until a dog is hurt. So we need to be there to tell them, no, this is for your dog's safety. Your dog is nervous about everything, and he can't be here when we have a full-on customer load. We've got all these dogs. Some of them might be barking, 4 different dryers going on. Like, that's not a good environment for your particular dog at this time. And don't forget to say at this time, because we're working on it. We're working on it. We want this dog to be more comfortable. We want this dog to be able to handle things. So those dogs that are nervous, like I said, sometimes I think that's part of their character. We all know at least one human, one neighbor or a friend or a family member that we would never call if we needed a ride to the emergency room. Like, they would just fall apart, right? We all know that one person, you're in a restaurant and somebody drops a glass or drops a tray and, everybody stops and looks to see if somebody's okay. But there's always that one person in the corner of the room who screamed. Like, good God, like sometimes it's just part of a character. But they had to learn to function. Our dogs need to learn to function, right? My nervous Nellie was, she was a little bit like walking a child through a haunted house. I just kind of had to be a step ahead with the kind of things that she thought were scary. So I had to be aware that, okay, this is something that is scary for this dog. Maybe not that one. Right? There were other things that she didn't think were scary at all. So it's not about all the time, everywhere, but we worked on it. But I just needed to have an awareness of, this is difficult for this dog, and I need to help her be better and understand that things are going to be okay. Later in life, people were telling me, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. She's not really afraid of anything. And I'm like, great, we make it look easy. But it wasn't. She was once so afraid of some trash barrels that were just, these trash barrels were really standing her down. They weren't moving. They weren't giving any friendly body language. These trash barrels were menacing. So she was terrified. Like, she was a nervous Nellie. And I think we see that a lot, but sometimes we make up a story about this dog's history or this dog's past or this dog's poor breeding or whatever it is. But we need to look at the behavior and help that dog be comfortable and help that dog be trusting with us with things they don't think are comfortable because we can't shelter them from everything. I want to know what a dog does when they're pushed past their comfort zone. And that's an important thing to know. I think a lot of trainers are trying to keep a dog in their comfort zone, which is awesome, as long as we're expanding that comfort zone ever outward. But if we don't know what that dog does when they're uncomfortable, that dog's a wild card. I had a dog on my grooming table, a little Bichon, and I was getting to know her, and I knew she was a little bit iffy. And her moment when she decided she couldn't handle it, instead of going for the brush or going for my hand, she decided to lunge full force at my face. And if I weren't standing back and appropriately restraining, that would have been full bites. Like, she was not holding back because she had never been pushed to the limit where she couldn't handle something. All right. Nobody knew that about her. And I didn't mean to push her to the point she couldn't handle, but I also didn't know how dangerous she was. Now you might be thinking, oh, a Bichon can't be that dangerous. Again, she lunged for my face. So any dog lunging for a face can be quite dangerous. Nobody needs to lose a lip or a nose or an eye. Right? So because she had always been sheltered from anything that might seem scary, she had been very catered to. Nobody knew that she would definitely go over the top and try to hurt somebody in a case where she was pushed a little bit too far. And if I were just told and had just taken it at face value, like, oh yeah, she gets a little nervous with grooming, I might not have been as prepared because I might not have realized this dog isn't unknown. So I want you to be thinking about those nervous dogs need to learn how to be good for things. We need to look at the specific behaviors about them and the things that they are reacting to so that we can help them be comfortable with it. And I will tell you that little Bichon, actually, I've been working with her for years now. She is pretty good for me, but you know what? Unless I'm doing her face, she wears a muzzle because I know she's going to make a bad decision if something scares her. And her owners aren't working on it. And I know her mom might be listening. That's okay. I love them, but they aren't working on it. But I can keep her quite comfortable. She has not ever tried to do something like that again because I try to keep my dogs comfortable. But we need to really focus on helping them understand that you can trust me with things that are uncomfortable. So in the beginning, we had talked about dominance. We moved it into nervous dogs because those are two sides of the same coin. Those are the dogs that are going to give you a lot of difficulty in a grooming setting or in a veterinary setting. And there's a risk factor involved with both types of dogs. And we cannot ignore that. We need to teach them how to be the best dog they can be. So hopefully that was helpful. Everybody have a great week and stay curious. If you'd like to talk to me, you can find me through my grooming and training business, happycrittersdogtraining.com, my email, chrissy@happycritters.net, and through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook page. And we have these awesome devices in our pockets that allow us to do live video with each other. I can help you with the dog on your table. We can set up live lessons, and you may be surprised at how much we can get accomplished together via video. I'm also happy to come to you if you're near my area in southern New Hampshire. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional Certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist Diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course, the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.